Greetings, Scott of Gold back again with another tutorial video. Of course, this video will also be a shout out to the people that voted, which I do appreciate the participation in the polls as of recently on my community tab. But I will say this, is that the today we are going to discuss on how to create a new ideology. This ideology that we could create is quite complicated, as some of you may know, and if you don't know, it is complicated. Why? Is because if you create a new ideology in Hoi, there's a chance it just may not work. You'll face a lot of bugs that come along with it. But don't worry, I am here to help as much as I can about creating a basic ideology and getting it prepared so that you don't have to worry about some of these problems, such as wrongful text or breakage. Now, of course, I can't promise everything. All I can say is, I can just guide you to where you need to be. So, let's get to it. First, you want to create a mod. So I'm going to call this one New Ideology. Now, you could also name this mod anything you want. I think I mentioned this before in another video. This is the launcher. All you do is go to Upload Mod, and then instead of uploading a mod, you click Create a Mod. I don't think I need to show it again because it's pretty self-explanatory. If you don't know, please go to one of my previous videos. I'm sure you'll find it. Now, we want to do stuff like, balance and such, like nothing too crazy. Of course, you might also need to add like an ideology icon, which is also necessary. But we'll get to that maybe in another video. I don't know. It's up to you. Do you guys want to see a new ideology icon? Which it should also be pretty simple, but yeah. You just got to work with GFX in that department. Anyways, back to the task at hand. So you have your new ideology mod. Now, the first thing that you are going to want to do, and this is what I always do with these mods to ensure that there is no problems with it, you would go to your descriptor and the other .mod file, and then go to where it says supported version, and you hit the star right there. This is what I normally do. But you don't necessarily have to do this, but if you want to preserve what you have in terms of like being able to play it or test it, even with new like hot fixes and updates, it is necessary. So in this one, we're going to create common. This is under the mod directory, of course. It's under Documents, Paradox Interactive, Hearts of Iron 4, and Mod. Then you should be able to find it. Remember that. So it's common, localization, and of course we'll need a GFX for the icon, but we'll get to that maybe in another video. I'm only focusing on the coding aspects here. So the main thing that you're also going to need for common is you're going to need one that says ideologies. Well, I spelled that wrong, sorry. So ideologies, this will give you the subfolder for what you need. Now I'm going to open up vanilla as a reference for you, and as you can clearly see, there's ideologies. You copy this, or you can also create your own text document too, it's up to you. But I think for the sake of convenience, I'm only going to use the same file. So what you can do, I would also recommend copying the democratic one only because it has more options than the rest. I mean, of course, it is up to you still. You can still do whatever you want with it. So like, for example, let's say I wanted to create a new ideology for the game that is quite different from what you see in front of you. Now, there's a number of different things. If you are a political scientist or have a friend of, or if you want to be able to expand the, I guess, stringent ideology or political system in the game, this might be for you to do. But of course, again, I should warn you, this does not come without consequence. This will cause bugs. That is a very big warning. So, please don't do that if you don't want bugs. But if you want to be able to go around it, all you have to do is just localize it, get the flags, you know. I might be able to explain that in a future video if you guys also want that, but like bug fixing. But I'll have to save that for later. Right now, let's say you want to create a new ideology. Now, it could be similar to democratic, or you can just use the AI template for it. But let's say we want to make one that's, I don't know, let's just say we could make one that's like democratic socialist, right? Or democratic socialism. So that this way we don't lose track of things. This we can use for that. You could also change like the sub out, although I'm not going to do it here because it might cause bugs. Because, you know, certain characters are attached to certain subgroups. So I'm going to create one that's purely unique to prevent disaster. So let's say we'll call this democratic socialism. We could call it subtype, or we can just call it ideology. Now, keep in mind, this is the ID. This is not designed to cause like a whole change in the system. It's supposed to be like, this is the ID, but it'll be localized differently, which I'll also show you in a bit. Now, dynamic faction names you don't necessarily have to change if you really don't want to. I mean, you could maybe share it with the communist ones if you want, or you can just create your own. It's up to you. That's also under localization, by the way. As for the color, you don't want it to be blue, right? So what we can do is you could do a darker blue, you could do a different shade of blue. Now, for the sake of convenience, I'm going to use paint.net because this has a more precise color scale than Microsoft Paint, which is the most basic version that anyone can have. Let's see. So let's say we want to make it a decent color scheme. Not like one that's like too dark. Maybe it could be a pale color if you want. So I think just for the sake of example, I'm going to do this color. So what you do is you match up the ID, and it uses RGB, of course. So 73, 69, 86. So that is going to form not quite the red of like communist, but that's going to be a very different shade of red. Oh, and fun fact, you can also, with the sub-ideology types, you can actually add independent colors inside this bracket. And I have done that before when it comes to certain things like, for example, I've added liberal, where it's usually like a goldish yellow. And I put in green for progressive. So basically, whoever leads as a progressive, the ideology color turns green, which can be really handy. But of course, it also depends on the person's intent. It also depends on their sub-ideology. It's basically following in what Hoi4 does. It's its own mechanic. So let's say we want to change out the rules. So Can declare war on the same ideology? No. Can create a collaborating government? Yes. Can send volunteers? Yes. Can puppet? Yeah, yes. And then can only justify war on threat countries? Let's do no for now, only because you can't declare war if there's like no like high tension country. But we'll just bypass that for now, just for the sake of it. War impact on tension. Like, we don't necessarily have to change all these if we really don't want to. But keep in mind that if you do not change this or some of these factors, you could face a problem with the ideology itself. Now, it will follow an AI democratic stance, but that's just the AI. That is not the ideology, even though it's from another. So now, this is how you create a new ideology for Undercommon. Pretty simple, right? Well, it goes a little deeper than that, because you have under localization, then you want to do English, and this is the part where you, of course, would localize. Now, I would do something like, because it's based on language, it's just something like, it could be ideologies, or you can just call it new ideology underscore L underscore English dot YML. And yes, it has to be in a YML format. I know some other mods, or, well, maybe not other mods, but other older Paradox games use like a text document or CSV, but this is what this time it uses. Now, before you do anything, there is one thing that you have to do, and that is you have to go under encoding, because if you do not encode this .yml file to the correct format, it will count as an error. It'll still work, but it'll count as an error, basically, and you don't want that. So switch it from UTF-8 to UTF-8 bomb. Then save. Then what you're going to do to start everything out, L underscore English with the dots. Then you want to do, once you do that, you hit space one time, and then you just go down. Once you follow that format, right, then what you're going to do is you're going to name this ideology, and this is where the localization comes in. Also, I forgot to mention, this number actually isn't really needed. I guess it's kind of an old habit of me clicking it, but basically this is only if like you want to replace stuff. Like, for example, you can put a 1 on it to make it dominant, but in this case I'm not going to, because it's a unique ID. So let's say we have this, right? Democratic Socialism, and then we want to create one that's for the ideology, the sub-ideology, because if you, and fun fact too, you really shouldn't have to make both the sub-ideology subtype as same as the group name, because this group name is up here, and that is what's helping lead the bracket system. If you make these two the same name, you're going to have a lot of problems. Now, of course, you can feel free to test it if you'd like, but like I said, I wouldn't recommend it. Now, that's the sub-ideology, and this is for the main group. I separated them for a reason. Okay? Now, I should probably put a dash in there, actually. So now your next bet is, yes, you could add your own custom faction names, but I'm not going to do that right now because it's only mainly for like a test. And yeah, that's basically how you add a basic ideology. Now, how would you test said ideology? Well, the answer actually lies in how you'll be able to access it. Because when you really think about it, there's 4 main ideologies. And it might actually be difficult to see the fifth one. Why? Is because it's the GUI of the game. So what I would recommend is working a little bit with interface. And don't worry, all you would need is something like this file, which I could also leave in the description below. Basically, it'll help you a lot. It's got a scroll wheel for the ideologies, and it should help you. And you basically can scroll wheel any ideology you want. And I've done that with my mods as well. So here, you're going to create interface. You open it. Once you're inside, there's a few things that you will need, of course. Now, you will need country politics, I think GUI. Like, yeah, I think this should be it. Then you're going to open it. Sorry, there was a bit of a cut in the recording, but I'm back. So, what I would do is, now I'm going to use my mod also for reference because it's under interface, and this one actually does offer where the scroll bar is. Now, of course, like I said, this isn't like a big requirement, although I would still recommend it, because if you're adding more than 4 ideologies, you might have a hard time, seeing the ideology. Which is why I do think that this is probably the best bet. Let's see. Now, it does use its own system, but like where it says container window type chart explanation, then it says right vertical slider. I would just copy this and put it in here. Now, of course, I can leave this file in the description below. I don't have to use my mod file, but this is basically what you need. And you're all set. Once you're done with that, you can run a test on your ideology. Now, of course, you may get an unknown leader, but there is actually a fix for that as well. I think you go under portraits, which you would need for the basic stuff. And as you can see, not a lot of errors. Why? Is because we used a unique ID. With this unique ID, it helps a lot. So you go under single player. Now let's say, why don't we change the Soviet Union's politics, right, to that new ideology, which is right here. Of course, there is this error bubble right here, but that's okay. You can actually change that with the lens that I also use. Now, as you can see here, it says Democratic Socialism. Now, there won't be an icon right here, but that is basically how you create a new ideology, and this is also why I recommended using this, so that this way you can scroll wheel more ideologies as you go. Now, how do you get rid of that error in the background? I'll show you. So, in my mod, I use this thing called pull empty. What this would do is, it points to this sprite in particular. And in this sprite, you can literally scroll wheel just using your middle mouse. I can't really explain it as detailed, but basically, if you have this as a sprite type, it will help a lot when it comes to convenience. Now, that convenience being, you would probably need politics view GFX. And if I go somewhere in here and if I type empty, there it is. So that points to that destination under Actually, I probably should have shown you. I'm sorry. It points to that destination under GFX, interface, hole empty, and it's a TGA. Of course, you could also theoretically do DDS, which is another dominant thing. So I think for this case, yes, I am going to use that because I really don't want to simply change the file type. But if you really want to, it's up to you. Although, you know what? On second thought, I'll just change it to TGA just to match it up. Or you could keep both too, just in case if something happens. Alright. Anyways, once you have that all well and done, your next thing is once it's empty, you just click on the game and it should work. If it still doesn't work, chances are it's a GUI thing. And as I mentioned before, nothing what you do here is absolute. There's a lot of trial and error that goes into modding this kind of thing. So please excuse the in and out problems with it, because this is literally how modding is. Let's see. And as you can see, there it is. You can scroll wheel with your middle mouse instead of just using this. No errors, nothing. And there's your ideology. Now, if you want to test it, you can. You could do set ruling party democratic socialism. Now, of course, there is no flag and there's no portrait that goes along with it, and it looks like it's for some reason using the fascist symbol. I know, that's pretty weird, right? But I'll address that in the next video if you guys like after this one. But that's basically how to create a new ideology. Of course, there is no flag that goes along with it. The basic name is just Russia. But once you do that, you could also do stuff like this. Watch. Add party popularity. You can do 20. Democratic socialism. Not a valid. Okay, so you do the number after. You don't do the number before. Okay, I'm sorry. There you go. Once you refresh. It didn't work. Oh, I spelt it wrong. Okay. Let's try it again. Yep, there it is. It's like a pinkish red. Or like a very light pale red. But yeah, that's how you add a new ideology to Hearts of Iron 4. I really hope this video helps you. Please like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to share this to someone who wants to learn this as well. Or if they need help, that's perfectly fine. But yeah. Also, please hit that bell notification so that this way you don't miss a future video. I know YouTube's algorithm is a bit stringent, but I will say that, well, things I guess kind of improved a little bit, but I don't know. I'm not an owner of YouTube. Anyways, feel free to subscribe. Take care, folks. I hope this helps. God of Gold, out.
United 93, 350, roger. United 93, that traffic for you is 1 o'clock, 12 miles eastbound, 370. Negative contact.